So here's Joyce F. Bales. This is Joyce Ford. Joyce Ford Bales, right? Cool swoop, Joyce. Cool swoop. No, I like it. I'm serious. I love it. Compared Joyce Bales to a different superintendent, the first Hispanic superintendent, 1986 to 1991, Edmund Vallejo. Aww. Or compare her to Kathy West, who was superintendent from 2009 to 2010. Aww. Sorry, that is a Trunch Bowl. It's a far-right-wing Republican partisan, a tyrannical, totalitarian, Confederate Nazi, a fascist oppressor Trunch Bowl. She ain't nothing but a Trunch Bowl. Joyce fucking Bales is a whole bowl of trunch. I've seen this disease before. I've tried to get away from the toxic, deep, dirty South, and yet the toxic, deep, dirty South had already planted its toxins in the water and the soil of Pueblo City's young people a long time ago, before I got here. Joyce Ford Bales has been in education since 1973 when she started in Tennessee. Joyce Ford Bales grew up on a Tennessee dairy farm. Born, raised, working in Tennessee. Tennessee's her life. She grew up on a dairy farm. Who gets to grow up on a bunch of land and have all that privacy and freedom? So she worked in Tennessee as a teacher for many years. Tennessee is the home of the Ku Klux Klan. Tennessee is also the state that produced the racist who killed Martin Luther King Jr. That's Tennessee. Old Tennessee Bales. So Old Tennessee Bales, Old Tennessee, Joyce Ford Tennessee Bales was working in D60 for 6 years in the 1990s. She was the assistant superintendent to Henry Roman. Joyce Ford Bales was working in D60 for 6 years in the 1990s before she became the head autocrat monarch queen oppressor in 2000. As superintendent, Pueblo City Schools paid Joyce Ford Bales $140,000 per year for 6 years, 2 3-year contracts. Joyce Ford Bales said in 2007 in Vista Schools in California, the new schools she started lording over after us, she said, "We're a no excuses, a no-nonsense kind of school." Joyce Ford Bales didn't believe in snow days. Even Joyce Ford Bales' friends, even her allies, would admit that Joyce Ford Bales was strict. They would say that the Bales administration set high standards, high expectations, and they insisted on results. Wait a second. That's the main reason for all these damn teen suicides. 8 kids blew out their brains in a span of a few months here in Pueblo in early 2017. And what were the main reasons? Because the drive for success was too much. The reason why Pueblo City's kids are killing themselves because of the impossible standards of their religious, educational oppressors, abusive parents, oppressors who smash their victims' humanity with their oppressive ways. Fuck the oppressors. Not just the overly high expectations, the impossible expectations. That's not the only reason why Pueblo's kids are killing themselves. Pueblo's children are also killing themselves because they have a lack of an emotional connection with their parents, friends, neighbors, family. Somebody who isn't an oppressor, somebody who could just appreciate them for being their wonderful individualistic selves. So the Linda Mood Bell institutions died when Bales left, but not her fascism. Her tyrannical despotism, fascism stuck around. Joyce Ford Bales' tyranny and despotism continued on without her. One person's strictness is another person's Nazi fascist authoritarianism. Along with the teachers, Joyce Ford Bales said that the community had been very supportive of her, citing Judge Dennis Mays and Magistrate Rebecca Moss and their work with truancy court. So that's fantastic, right? Joyce Ford Bales is this main head tyrant, shut up, sit down, get in class. And then you got the judges who's sitting there forcing all these kids to sit into these classrooms. Now, some people want to laud Joyce Bales as an overwhelming great success, and she also received high accolades from the Bush administration, from the department, the educational secretary. So the Bush administration needs some propaganda, and she was all too willing to spend D60's money. So Joyce Ford Bales is lauded as an overwhelmingly great success. But is that truly the case? Is that truly the case? Why is there so much crazy behavior? Why are there so much gang activity? Why is there so much poverty? How come there's very little democracy? Right now they're trying to throw out the possibility of ever having a constitutional charter convention ever again. Never again. The biggest statistic that I take away from the Bales administration is that 50% of the children of Pueblo City don't graduate. And that came from a 2003 article with Christine Pacheco Kowaleski, and she was sitting there talking about how does Joyce Bales taking all these lavish trips to Washington, D.C., to Lexington, Kentucky, so she can apply for a superintendent's job in Lexington, Kentucky, while she's on the Pueblo City taxpayer dime. So she got Pueblo to pay for her expenses to go apply for other jobs. And so Christine was just pointing out, well, how does, her spending all that money going all over, Timbuktu, how does that help our children here? So 50% didn't graduate? That's a success, Joyce fucking Bales. People are going to say that was an overwhelming success when 50% didn't graduate. How come? Why don't they graduate? And they got problems at home. They have poverty to deal with. They have all these real-life issues to deal with, and the teachers don't give a shit about their real life. It's almost like the classroom is a separate environment than real life. It's almost like real life doesn't even matter to some of these careerists, these teachers and principals, administrators, and superintendents. They care about their career. They care about their paycheck. They care about their power. But if they were true blue educators, then they would empower the students to take their place. They would empower the students to be leaders. So we have lots of leaders to elevate the top 10%. Like W.E.B. Du Bois says, the talented 10th. We're going to need a new leadership class to take the rest of the community into the future. We need a leadership class. So let's pick the top 10% of the students and give them the best damned education that we can give them. It's important to take care of everybody, and everybody needs to learn to read. But we need some smart, educated, talented 10th. We need the vanguard. We need a vanguard of talented leadership, talented new leaders that are going to take the reins of power when we all step down. Even Joyce Ford Bales herself agrees that we should be alarmed. This is her quote. We should be alarmed that any student from our high schools has to take remedial courses. So complaints from colleges that many District 60 graduates need to take remedial courses. So they go off to college and they don't even know how to read and write and do basic math, so they got to do the same courses that our high, middle, and elementary schools should have been teaching them in the first place. So our students are going to college and they're not prepared. They're having to take remedial classes. 50% of published children isn't graduating under the Bales administration. This is a success. This is a success. And I did the math, and they're not all just 20-year-old students, but the kids in Pueblo City schools that Jamie Bales was superintendent of would be 22 years of age to 35. So most 20-year-olds, if they went to school in Pueblo City, then they had Joyce Bales as the superintendent up to 35 years of age. So half the 30-year-olds had Henry Roman as a superintendent, and then the other half of the 30-year-olds who stuck around, who stayed, who didn't pull a Joyce Bales, who didn't bail on us. Half of the 30-year-olds had Henry Roman, the other half had Joyce Bales, anybody over 22 years of age. So this is the 20-year-olds. This is the 20-year-olds. So did Joyce Bales do a good job? Are the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds, the young 30-year-olds, are they doing a good job? Are they leading successful lives? There is some really shitty leadership transitions that happened in 2006. Joyce Bales leaves Pueblo City, and she didn't groom a successor. She didn't set up any powerful institutions, right, that Linda Bell, Mood Bell, or whatever. It left with her, but fascism stuck around, and that's exactly what John Covington carried on. Apparently, John Covington got off a tumultuous start with the city's teachers' union during tense contract negotiations, a tense relationship that resonated during Covington's 3-year reign from the fall of 2006 to the summer of 2009. So she just bailed. She just leaves without any successor, without choosing anybody, without grooming anybody, without having any superintendent training, because she wants all the power. She don't want you to be the superintendent because she's going to lose her job. She wants to hold on to that job for as long as she can. So she just bails. John Covington gets in there, out of the blue from Alabama. He gets in there. He's not working well at the city's union. So That was a bad transition. Joyce Bales didn't give a shit. She got the hell out of Dodge and said, fuck all the rest of you all. She don't care if the institutions actually helped any of the kids and, led to their lives right now, the 20 and 30-year-olds right now. Joyce Bales didn't give a shit about any of them. And she definitely didn't give a shit about the 50% who dropped out. Joyce Bales wasn't planning on living here in Pueblo City. She didn't care how those children turned out. She didn't care what successes or damage those children might do to the city later on in life. She wasn't going to live it, so it's not her problem. It's not in her backyard. Joyce Bales liked taking credit for shit, so that was perfect for Baby Bush and her to get together, but it caused a lot of excess expenses, applying for out-of-state superintendent jobs while still superintendent. She just did that, that we know about in Lexington, but they all did that. John Covington was applying to different places while he was superintendent. And then that's how he basically forced, the contract to get either, do what I want or else I'm going to go somewhere else. And then when he went somewhere else, he wanted to make sure the entire school board unanimously voted for him because he wanted 100% compliance. That is a legacy of Joyce Bales. Joyce Bales wanted 100% compliance. She didn't believe in opposition parties. She didn't believe in dissent. She didn't believe in freedom of speech. She didn't believe in democracy. You really want to know about Joyce Bales and Kitty Kennedy? Ask Lawrence Hernandez. Lawrence Hernandez was the principal of Cesar Chavez Academy. He might still be there, but Lawrence Hernandez and Joyce Bales butted heads many times. And the Cesar Chavez Academy was one of the star schools, one of the schools that was receiving all these high marks, and so she was getting all the credit for the Cesar Chavez Academy. She was getting all the credit for Cesar Chavez, but she wasn't helping them. She was very much opposed to it. I think it's a charter school. So she takes all the accolades for it, like the credit-stealing hog that she is, but she didn't help Lawrence Hernandez out. Joyce fucking Bales didn't set up any infrastructure for any sound institutions. Joyce fucking Bales didn't set up a successor with that, rift between the teachers union and John Covington. She was too strict. She didn't give us snow days. So snow days are some of the, greatest days that I can remember. That's so nice. Wake up early in the morning and you're like, oh, I don't have to go to school. I got the entire day to myself. What am I going to do with my day? There is unsatisfactory performances from Pueblo's high school students. So, they want to say that she was this great. I don't think she's nearly as great as they say she is. In fact, I think she was a detriment. I think she was bad for Pueblo City. Joyce Bales is the exact opposite of Abraham Lincoln. She prefers a dictatorship, and she will fight for a dictatorship. She won't fight for democracy. She'll use democracy in order to strengthen her dictatorship hand, to increase her tyranny, to increase her despotism. Joyce fucking Bales will use democracy in order to destroy itself. But don't lose hope, Pueblo City. Matilda defeated Trunchbull. And one time in our lives, being poor was actually a good thing. We were only paying her $140,000 per year. So she only got, $500,000? We only gave her $500,000, and that wasn't enough. She had a gas card and travel expenses, and that still wasn't enough. She still kept on using D60 as her own personal credit card. So she's getting $140,000. She's allowed with gas money and travel expenses. So $140,000 a year, gas travel, gas and travel is already paid, and then that still wasn't enough. She's not paying, for any of these trips out of her own pocket. She's using D60 as her own personal credit card. And this is a Republican. This is a, not tax and spend Republican, taxing and spending, using all your taxes. Didn't she raise taxes with the bond issue? So this conservative Republican is raising your taxes so she can get more money for her institutions. Did it trickle down? Huckleberry Finn is the quintessential all-American novel, and Huckleberry Finn would have been playing hooky all day long, carrying dead cats, playing pirates with Tom Sawyer, keeping Jim company as he floated on that raft down the Mississippi River. Huckleberry Finn wouldn't have set foot in Joyce Bales' prison. As soon as he did, he'd been like, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. Huckleberry Finn is the quintessential all-American novel. Huckleberry Finn didn't want to be civilized. They're not going to civilize me. And it's ironic how the ones who are civilized in Huckleberry Finn also defended slavery. There is slavery all over the place. Better be obedient, shut your mouth, do as you're told. The Joyce Ford Bales tyranny lasted for 6 years, from 2000 to 2006. A December 2003 News 4 report found that over 14 months, Joyce Bales took at least 16 official trips out of the district. So in a span of 1 year, she's, vacationing all over the place. 16 official trips. Did she even stay in the district? Was she even in the district doing anything? 10 of those trips were out of state. 10 out-of-state trips in a span of 1 year, and it cost us $15,000. The superintendent of Littleton schools, which is about the same size as Pueblo, traveled to just one out-of-state conference last year. It cost his district $746. She cost us $15,000. The superintendent of a Colorado Springs school district, which is larger than Pueblo, attended just 2 out-of-state conferences last year. Joyce took 16 trips. Colorado Springs School District, 2 out-of-state conferences. Littleton, 1 out-of-state conference. Joyce Bales, 10 out-of-state conferences and 6 in-state. So Joyce Bales was spending all this extra travel expenses, all this lavish luxuries, at a time when D60 was facing 20% budget cuts. So across the line, 1/5 of all the budget was going to get cut. But Joyce Bales didn't stop her spending. Even though the school system was getting cut 20%, it didn't curb her spending, her tax and spending ways. School board member Gail Rodosevic, okay, so this is important. This article goes out in 2003. Gail Rodosevic was quoted as saying that these expenses appear to be an awful lot, and I would question some of these expenses. That's it. She would question the expenses like any human would do, like any freedom-loving American would do. They questioned authority. I spent $15,000. Don't question me. I spent it, and just that you should just be happy with knowing that I spent it. No, I want to know, where did you spend it on? Why did you spend it? Why did you think it was important? Christine Pacheco Kovaleski. Christine, she said, I don't even know about these. Some of these I didn't even know she went to. So she took 16 secret trips, not notifying anybody, just, taking off with the D60 credit card on top of her 6-figure salary. And Christine Pacheco Kovaleski said that I don't think the district or this community has gotten back $15,000 worth in return for those trips. Now, they're going to say that she got trillions of dollars. She got trillions of dollars in grants. So that News 4 report actually hurt Joyce Bales' application with Lexington, Kentucky schools when she applied to be the superintendent. She was spending money on her travel so she could be superintendent of other schools. And she had no intention of staying here to raise a family, to retire. No, she took our money, and she planned on hauling ass the whole time. It hurt her chances, but what the fuck was she even doing that to begin with? So had we not known about, this report hadn't came out, we might not have known she'd been applying to all these different places. She goes and checks out some schools in the neighborhood, and then while she's in the neighborhood, swings on by to Lexington, Kentucky to do an interview to be a superintendent. We paid for that. D60 paid Joyce Bales to go around applying for other jobs. This news report comes out. She's in there 2000, 2003 is her first term, her first 3-year contract, and then it'll be 2004, 2006. So she had 2 3-year contracts. So I'm not for sure why Christine and Gail didn't like her. And I'm not for sure if they pushed this huge fire Joyce Bales effort or if they just talked about it and Joyce Bales freaked the fuck out. But either way is really bad. There's the option of firing the superintendent is always there. It's always that, yeah, she's got the contract or what have you, but the power of the school board is pretty much moot except for the threat to fire. That's the only way you can get compliance if you're a member of the school board. But evidently, Christine and Gail, they must have seen something that they didn't like, so that's why they were talking about firing her. Joyce Ford Bales found out about them talking about it. She turned on her Nazi on full blast. When it comes to children, Joyce Ford Bales was used to getting compliance, taking their power away for herself. But when it comes to adults, there's still some of us who still have our souls intact. So Joyce fucking Bales turns her Nazi on full blast. So now she's a full-blown Nazi. And she's going to go after Gail and Christine. Gail Rodosevic had been a school board member since 2001, which means that Gail saw the early phases of the Joyce Bales administration. Christine Pacheco Kovaleski did too. Christine was elected to a 4-year term in 1999. Then Christine PK was reelected in 2003. So she was actually a school board before Joyce became a superintendent. This means Christine PK would have been on the school board who had hired Joyce Bales. I wonder if she actually did hire her. Wouldn't that be interesting? Eventually, Christine and Gail are going to see the demon Joyce Ford Bales for who she truly was. They floated the idea of firing her around. Joyce found out. Joyce was pissed. As the tyrant that Joyce Ford Bales was, she couldn't just stand by and just have merely a majority on the school board, which that's all you need, 3 out of 5 votes. Once you get 3 out of 5 votes, you get your policy passed. You don't need all 5 of the school board members. She had a majority. She had the majority of a school board on her side, but she just wasn't going to take any opposition. She wasn't going to accept any dissent. She just didn't have time for this shit. She didn't have time for other people talking about criticizing. She didn't have time for constructive criticism, any kind of criticism, any kind of dissent. She was the dictator. Shut the fuck up. Do as Joyce Bales demands of you. Do what she commands. So it's crazy. A majority on the school board would have given Joyce Bales all the policies that she wanted. For Joyce Bales to succeed, however, she felt like she needed every single school board member, all 5, to be her bitch-ass, bitch slaves to make things work. She didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to hear bullshit. No petty little comments. She didn't want to hear the criticism, constructive or not. Joyce Bales just doesn't believe in democracy. Banana republics stamp out opposition. And then we have these democracy indexes. I come from a political science background, so I question power and power relationships. And in political science, for a healthy democracy, we need the rule of law. So nobody is above the rule of law. We all got to follow the laws. We need checks and balances, right? No dictatorship. Yeah, if you're the executive, you want your policies to get through. But frankly, I'm not just going to get in front of the school board and just be like, here's my idea, take it or leave it. Fuck that. You convince me. You get in front and then you because once you get 5 independent thinking people to back your plans, well then now you got 5 other people that will help, develop your ideas and help for your agenda to get initiated. But if you just say it's my way or the highway, well, that means you don't know democracy. As the lead executive, as the superintendent, you want to get your way. But if the school board isn't backing you, well, you need to learn from that. Other adults listen to what you have said, and either you didn't convince them, you didn't give a good enough presentation, you're being a dick about it or something, or it's a bad idea. So if you can't get the school board to back your idea, then you should assume it's a bad idea, and then, come up with a different one. Either reconvince them of your original idea, or go a different direction. The school board that is there to guide you, the school board is made up of good people. The school board is made up of good people. They don't get paid. So everybody on the school board, both Gail and Christine, they weren't getting paid. They were doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They wanted to see the school do well, so they became a school board member, which it's got power, right? Voting power, budget power, hiring, firing power, mostly power to hire and fire the superintendent. So the school board gets absolutely nothing. So for Christine and Gail to have to go through all this fucking bullshit, Joyce Ford Bales just need to get rid of them. They had, problems with her. She didn't want to fix the problem. She wasn't going to get unanimous. She was going to get unanimous consent by force, by fear. She wasn't going to get unanimous consent by convincing them. And this is only 6 people. If you can't get 6 people in a room and for them to get along and for them to come up with mostly unanimous decisions, well, what chance do the rest of us have? Our leaders don't even get along. How are we going to get along? Just because we disagree, that's okay. We can agree to disagree. We can disagree without being disagreeable. So once Joyce Ford Bales got in her head, she needed to get rid of Christine and Gail Godofsevich. Bales pushed for recall efforts against them both. Bales and her anti-community group couldn't gather enough signatures to put Christine on the chopping block of a recall effort, but they were able to put Gail Godofsevich, her name, on the ballot. Joyce Bales did this 1 year before the end of Gail's term. 1 year before the end of Gail's term. Joyce Bales was going to be bailing out on us anyways after 2006, so she didn't care. For 1 more year, she couldn't put up with Gail's bullshit for 1 more year, right? So she's going to kick out Gail even though she only had 1 more year left. But she couldn't afford to wait. She needed 100% compliance, 100% totalitarianism right fucking now. And Gail Godisevich wasn't obeying Joyce Bales like a good girl should. Gail Godisevich lost the recall effort. And longtime business owner Gil Montez was the man chosen to fill Gail Godisevich's school board seat. So one school board member down, one more to go. Now, Gil Montez, here, this is when, happier times, this is the caption underneath the picture, just to kind of show you that they're all excited and they're all happy to have Gil Montez on there. They pushed a recall effort. Joyce Bales pushed for this recall effort against Gail Godisevich. And what was her quote? What did Gail Godisevich, what did she say? When it comes to all these expenses, she just says, it appears to be an awful lot, and I would question some of these expenses. What? You're going to question me? You're going to question Joyce Bales? I'm Joyce fucking Bales. Don't you dare question me. Gil Montez joined the Public School District 60 Board of Education during the official swearing-in ceremony presided by Chief District Judge Dennis Mays at the November 23rd board meeting. Gil Montez will be filling a one-year vacancy on the board as a result of the recall of former board member Gail Rodosevich. Immediately following the formal ceremony, family, well-wishers, and District 60 staff joined in a reception to congratulate the newly seated official. Mr. Gil Montez family members in attendance and pictured below are his wife, Marilyn, daughter Geraldine Garcia, a counselor at Pitts Middle School, Mrs. Garcia's daughter, Casey, and son, DJ Also. Pictured below are Mr. Montez with Judge Mace, Board President Kitty Kennedy, Vice President Sean Boham Voxie, Board Member Dan Comden, and Superintendent Dr. Joyce Bales, who's a doctor of nothing. Congratulations and welcome, Gil Montez. Wow, so much excitement, right? Gil Montez, they got Gail out, now they got Gil in there. That's all they needed was a nice, a brand new, so that's 2004, 1 year before her term actually expired. 2004, Gail Rodosevich got kicked out, Gil Montez is in. Okay, now, next year. Next year's 2005. 2 months before the election day, you had this guy, Arnie Carlson, who ran against Christine Pacheco Kovaleski before, I guess in 99, but failed, got Christine booted off the school board. The way Arnie Carlson got Christine booted off the school board was he had found out that Christine had sold her house on 2225 North Greenwood Street home, and she was living in a home in Spotsylvania, Virginia. Arnie Carlson presented a letter to the Joyce Bales School Board Administration about how Christine shouldn't even be a board member, since technically she didn't live in the district anymore. She was working in one place, living in the other. It was a transition. I believe there's enough gray area there, but they thought that she didn't, and so Greg Sin, the public relations dude for the Bales administration, was sent by Joyce Bales to an address that some news story had printed about where Christine was now living to see if she actually lived there. So Greg Sin went to this apartment complex and he knocked on apartment 1, apartment 2. He found her son, who told Greg that Christine actually didn't live there, even though he could have been covering for her. He's like, I could pass a message on to her if you want, right? Being a nice, innocent kid who should not have listened to any of these assholes, to any of these bullies, to any of these fascist oppressors, these anti-democracy people. Her son shouldn't have said a word, because these are not people to be trusted. So after Greg Sin goes to the house that he thought Christine lived in and confronted her son, Christine called Greg Sin and Joyce Bales up to complain. What the hell are you doing? Why are you all doing this? And Joyce Bales recorded the conversation, pretending to be the victim. She was like, sent this guy out to go see where he lives, and then when she calls him up on the phone, she's recording it like, oh my gosh, why is she yelling at me? I don't understand. I'm only trying to get her kicked out of the school board, unceremoniously, to have her honorably discharged a recall. That's hardcore. Christine was doing this on her own volition, on her own free time. She didn't get no money to be on the school board. She just genuinely gave a shit about the children, and she didn't think that Joyce Bales was doing a good job. Now, Greg Sin, he also worked for the Lopez administration, I saw in 2010, so he stuck around for a while, but eventually Joyce Bales hires him on as a grant writer in Vista, California. So Greg Sinn eventually follows Joyce Bales out to California. Now Christine, she'd been on the board for 4 years, but September 2005, the board declared the seat held by Bales critic Christine Pacheco-Kovaleski vacant. And then they replaced her with Phyllis Sanchez to serve out the remaining 2 years of Pacheco-Kovaleski's term. Pacheco-Kovaleski had sold her Pueblo home, taken a job in Virginia, and the board rejected her claims that the move was temporary and that she was still a Pueblo resident. So if the move was temporary, well, it's not now. She's not even, you're trying to humiliate her. You're trying to embarrass her. She's doing this free service at the school board. So if Christine was still a Pueblo resident, I bet she would have left after this shit. Why the fuck stick around for this bullshit? She spoke up because she thought it was right, and now she's being attacked because she had a differing opinion. October 26, 2005 is when Phyllis Sanchez was appointed to fill the vacancy the board itself created last month by declaring that Christine was no longer a Pueblo resident. Pacheco-Kovaleski was a target, along with Gail Rodosevich, of a bitter recall campaign last year. Their opponents managed to get Rodosevich recalled, but failed to get enough signatures to put Pacheco-Kovaleski's name on the recall ballot. Pacheco-Kovaleski is trying to overturn the board's decision, and on Friday filed a lawsuit against the board. Tuesday afternoon, her attorney, Guadalupe Cisneros, argued unsuccessfully for a temporary restraining order before some district court judge. 2 board members down. 2 board members down, but she actually got rid of 3 board members in 2 years, and you won't believe who the other school board member is that she's going to go after. A little bit about Phyllis Sanchez. She's term limited, so she's actually stepping down, so that's good. We have an open seat now because Phyllis Sanchez is term limited. She was reelected to the Board of Education 2013, elected president November 2015. So she would have been part of the effort to hire the new Charlotte Macaluso. So Phyllis Sanchez, 2013, 2015, she was elected to a 4-year term on the board in 2009. So 2009, she would have been the one hiring Kathy West, and then she would have been the one that would have hired Maggie Lopez, serving as vice president. She was elected as president, says November 2011, so twice she was president. Previously served on Pueblo City School Board from 2005 to 2007, which would be the 2 years that we're talking about now. So she was on the school board for 2 years, but then for 2 years she wasn't on the school board, but then she was on there 2 full terms after 2009. Mrs. Sanchez is a Pueblo native and a 1976 graduate of Centennial High School. She has worked in long-term care her entire 30-plus year career and received her national certification as an assisted living administrator in 2000. She is the founder and CEO of Senior Care Systems of Colorado Incorporated, a private non-profit corporation which owns and operates Belmont Senior Care Assisted Living and Adult Daycare Center in Pueblo. Phyllis Sanchez's long-time community involvement includes the Park View Medical Center Board, the Pueblo Zoological Society, the Pueblo Hispanic Education Foundation Board, and she recently served on the board of directors for the Latino Chamber of Commerce. She previously served as the Centennial High School Site-Based Committee Chairperson from 1994 to 2004, was a member of the Centennial High School Foundation as well as numerous other boards. She's also a member of the Pueblo Greater Chamber of Commerce, the American College of Healthcare Administrators, the Colorado Healthcare Association, and NALEO, the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials. Mrs. Phyllis Sanchez is married and has one adult daughter, Andrea. Mrs. Sanchez's term expires this year, 2017. She can be reached at 719-251-3889. Now, Gil Montez was supportive of the Joyce Bales administration, but Gil got stonewalled when he asked for financial information about the budget and bond issue. Bales needed to get rid of Montez now. He's asking questions. He was like, what, you want to look at the budget? Yeah, I'm the school board member. Can I see what the... No, you can't look at the budget. And then the bond issue, right? She's trying to raise some taxes, and he's just asking some questions. And she hates that. She hated when Gail just, she questioned some of the expenses. No, how dare you question me? How dare you question the great Joyce fucking Bales? So Joyce fucking Bales needs to get rid of Gil Montez right now, and then that's why Stephanie Garcia was nominated. to get rid of the last Bales critic on the school board. So Stephanie Garcia is going to be elected. She was nominated, but she's going to be elected, and then Jill Montez is going to get kicked out. So Jill Montez had strong support from the leadership of the Pueblo Education Association, which donated $1,700 to his and Christian Piat's campaigns. Piat came in third, and then Montez came in fourth. So they did kind of split the vote there, and Stephanie Garcia came up the middle. The November 3rd, 2005 general election had only a 30% turnout rate. So none of that had any Democratic legitimacy. 30% isn't greater than 50%. And we need a greater than 50% turnout rate in order for this society that we live in to be a democracy. So 2005, Kitty Kennedy, she won. She was reelected to a second 4-year term because she had the most votes, because it's pick the highest two, which is the same kind of election that we're having this year. And then Stephanie Garcia came in second to unseat Gil Montez. That's the third board member. 3 board members down in 2 dust. 3 board members bit the dust in 2 years because they dared to oppose or criticize or question the Führer, Joyce Bales. Now, Joyce Ford Bales had 5 bitch-ass, sycophantic ass-kissers in the school board to do as the fuck as she wanted, whatever the hell she wanted, her vision, her policies, her ideas, for the last 5 months of her tenure. So she got this perfect school board that would be a rubber stamp for everything that she wanted, and she was only here for 5 more months, and then she took off the Vista because we couldn't pay her over $200,000. They could. So she was like, well, fuck you, poor Pueblo. I'm going to California. So hyper-Republican Joyce Ford Bales is the polar opposite of liberal Republican Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, he had a team of rivals. He wanted lots of competing, diverse perspectives. He wanted out of the great pool of ideas, the best ideas should prevail. So let's get lots of perspectives. Let's get lots of different, I would love a school board. I wouldn't love if they're all against me, but to have questions, to have dialogue, that's democracy. 3 of Abraham Lincoln's cabinet members had previously ran against Lincoln in the 1860 election: Edward Bates, Salmon P. Chase, and William H. Seward. So 3 of his former competitors was now in his cabinet. But Joyce Ford Bales, she wasn't going to accept it. Not only not accept opposition parties, she wasn't going to accept anybody questioning her tyranny. Not now, not ever. Joyce Ford Bales would take her tyrannical ways to Vista, California, where she pushed recall efforts there against 3 school board members who opposed her on using Linda Mood Bell model of literacy. So she goes there. Everybody told her how great she was. So she thinks Linda Mood Bell is just going to be the save-all, end-all theory that's going to save everybody. When she goes to Vista, California, and some of the school board members didn't want to do Linda Mood Bell, she pushed recall efforts against them. I'm pretty sure that's what that article said. So she did the exact same shit. She got her practice here. She pushed out 3 school board members, and it had nothing to do with Linda Mood Bell, so it has to be in Vista, California. She did it here in Pueblo, then she goes to California and does the same shit there. The reason why Hitler was able to get so many Germans to murder millions of innocent people was due to blind obedience to authority. Blind obedience to authority isn't a virtue. Blind obedience to authority is a vice. We're expected to comply with any asshole who demands shit out of us? Yeah, fuck that. I'm an American. And besides, morality and obedience are the complete opposite. Obedience is doing whatever you're told, regardless of whether it's right or wrong, and morality is when you do what is right, regardless of who's telling you what to do. They're the opposite. So if you're just obedient, you don't have any morality. You're not doing just right just because, regardless of who's telling you what. You're not choosing good. You're not choosing righteousness. You're not choosing justice. You're choosing, yes ma'am, whatever you say, sir. Okay, I'll do that right away. The Nuremberg defense was that they were just following orders. Why'd you kill all those Jews? I was following orders. Well, that's not a good enough excuse. Those fucking Nazis were hung, and rightfully so. The shit that they did, yeah, they deserved their just desserts. An eye for an eye is justice. When Stephanie Garcia was elected in the 2005 school board election, a lot of people, a lot of public officials, including Edmund Vallejo, had basically complimented this thing for being a resounding success. Like, good, now we can get some sanity, now we can get a nice school board that's going to work well and be compliant with the superintendent that's just going to bail, haul ass on us in 5 months. They were acting like this was a great thing. Now, Edmund Vallejo, earlier I said he had a gentle face, and I still think that's true, but could a gentle-faced person be a tyrant? Yeah, anybody could be a tyrant. The will of power is inherent in all of us. We all got the will of power. So Edmund Vallejo, he had fought in the Korean War, I believe, which means he came out of the consensus culture of the 1950s. Everybody's just supposed to get behind Eisenhower. When he told the nation to bow their heads and pray, the entire nation bowed their heads and prayed. When he said communism was a bad thing, everybody believed that communism was a bad thing. So I kind of find it revolting and disgusting that nobody's sitting there talking about her being a tyrant. She's such a shitty tyrant. You had 2 board members that was criticizing you. Who gives a shit? Keep on getting your stuff passed with the other 3 board members, but instead she gets into politics. She uses democracy in order to destroy itself. She's not pro-democracy. She's a tyrant. And when the top is a tyrant, then everybody's going to be tyrants. We're not learning democracy in the school system, and if we're not learning it in the school system, where the hell are we going to learn it from? McDonald's? Walmart? We can go, where are we going to learn democracy, how to get along with one another? How are we going to learn how to get along with one another if we're not being taught in the school system to do that? And we need the adults to do it, so they set the example, and then the children can follow the example. But this is how the adults are acting. Fucking adults are acting like a bunch of dumbass kids. A bunch of dumbass kids who don't want 2 other kids, 2 other adults playing along with them. These 3 are my friends. I don't like you. That's Joyce Bales right there. I got 3 friends. I don't need your friendship. Why not? Why don't you get to the heart of the matter? What is it that you want? Where are you coming from? Instead of just taking offense that someone questions you. Someone's questioned some expenses. If you're legit, just explain where it came from. This is where it came from, this and that. So, I did legit. It's totally fine. It's cool. I'm not doing anything unethical here. But if you're guilty and somebody questions you, then you freak the fuck out and you initiate a recall effort to kick them out so that way they destroy their reputation and does all this other bullshit just so Joyce Bales can get her way. Just so old Tennessee Bales, who came in and got paid, $140,000, got paid $500,000. She'd been a teacher or administrator or something in the 90s. So she'd been here for about 12 years. And then hauled ass in 2006, right, as soon as she got this perfect school board for herself. She only used that perfect school board for 5 months. What decisions do you think those 3 school board members would have decided against in those 5 months? What the fuck did she do in those 5 months? I think actually those 5 months deserve a lot of scrutiny. She finally got her 100% compliance. She finally got her unanimous consent. She got an entire school board that was going to kiss her ass. So now that she got this school board that's going to kiss her ass, she must have made so many great decisions, right? I call bullshit because absolute authority corrupts absolutely. She was absolutely corrupt. Absolutely she was. And then all the people in the community want to back this corruption just because we're just supposed to follow the Mein Führer, follow daddy, follow the leader. No, we don't need tyranny. We need democracy. Fuck tyranny. Fuck fascism. We need democracy. We need to strengthen our students. In fact, let's make the entire school board and the superintendent exclusively of students. All right, so some more expenses. She takes vacations on Pueblo City's dime with other district employees using D60's expense account as her own personal credit card. The trip to Tennessee came just before Thanksgiving to visit the Maryville School District. Bales has a home in Greenville, Tennessee. So wait a second. Joyce Bales has a home in Greenville, Tennessee? So the school board has to live here. A school board member does, but a superintendent does. So apparently she went to this professional meeting at the Maryville, Tennessee School District, which was just they were having so much success. She was wanting to steal their ideas. But 70 miles away is Greenville, Tennessee. Her husband and son and extended family all live in Greenville, Tennessee. After the Maryville school trip was over, Joyce Bales then drove to her home in Tennessee, in another state, which is actually right next door to Virginia, for a vacation. And Gregson verified it. She did visit the family there. Pueblo taxpayers paid Joyce Bales' airfare, $700, and it might not be the only time that happened. John Musso, The district's former deputy superintendent said that the district's chief financial officer told him at least 3 times about Bales taking official school district trips to Tennessee. And on several occasions, the chief financial officer had said Bales was going to a conference and was in fact going home on the district's dime, said Musso, who now works in education in Washington, D.C. Several times, right? He knows at least 3 times to Tennessee. Why you keep on going to Tennessee, Joyce? We keep paying $700 for her travel. She already gets an expense account. She already gets a gas account. $1,400 per month on top of her $140,000 that she's making. She's making a shit ton of fucking money. It wasn't enough money. That's why she went to Vista to get herself, what, $220,000 or something like that. So taking all these trips to apply to other schools, but Bales school board supporters, what they say is she shouldn't be questioned. Hey, don't question Joyce Bales. To nitpick on certain things, I won't do that because I know the quality of work she puts forward, said former school board member Mary Lou Jackson. She's outstanding. News 4 found out that the superintendent also continues to turn in reimbursement requests for local dinners, Colorado travel expenses, and mileage, even though her contract pays her $600 a month for a vehicle allowance and $700 per month to cover expenses. $1,300 extra per month on top of $140,000. How come teachers and principals and superintendents, why they get contracts, but the students and the parents don't? Ultimately, the students and the parents are the customers for this education, and there is a social contract. I send my kid to school, you got to educate them. You're not teaching them, then you should be fired. You should be sued. Something should happen. You are in breach of contract. And if they're not happy with their bullshit education, they should get their money. A couple expenses, she spent $295 to have a name inscribed on a piece of slate at the Latino Chamber of Commerce. Her name, she spent $300 of D60 money to get her name on a piece of slate. $900 for tables at a Citizen of the Year banquet. They're going to call her Citizen of the Year, or maybe she's honoring somebody. $900 it cost us, $172.50 for an awards luncheon honoring Bales, $500 for a corporate table honoring the director of a suicide prevention center. She's already making $1,300 extra per month on top of $140,000 per year. Now all this extra shit, she was using D60's $100 million plus budget as her own personal credit card. Now, $300 here, $700 there. Yeah, maybe it's not too much, and then people say she's getting honored, so it helps with the overall perspective. But still, when she was questioned, she freaked the fuck out. Just explain yourself. Now, Joyce Bales has some weird quotes. She once said, "We use our data constantly to come up with new strategies. We use our data constantly to come up with new strategies. We use our data constantly to come up with new strategies." Oh, really, Joyce? Do you wipe your ass with toilet paper too? Superintendent Joyce Bales told the President's Commission on Excellence in Special Education in 2002 that Pueblo's success was based on their use of data to inform their instruction. It's based on data that we use to inform our instruction. Really? If you weren't using data beforehand, what were you using? This superfluous bullshit. Okay, so their use of data to inform their instruction. What the fuck are you instructing if it's not backed by data? And then why say data? Like the students are just a bunch of computers and you just plug data into them? No, Joyce fucking Bales, that's called information or stuff or shit. Education is experience. Everything else is information. So you teach others shit you know, not data that you know. You teach others stuff you know, not data. You teach others information. Hey, I got some information. I'm going to teach this information. I'm going to express this information. I'm going to communicate this information to you. But data? Who the fuck would say that? Who the fuck would be like, oh yeah, I'm going to make a decision and I use data in order to make this decision? Okay, you weird-ass robot, you alien freak. You're from Tennessee, ain't you? Yeah, you're from Tennessee, you weird alien freak. So even if we use the word information instead of data, which just sounds weird to me, so it's the same thing, right? But let's use the word information. And I was to come up to you and I said, look, I use information for my instruction. Why am I such a good teacher? Well, because in my lesson plans, I actually use information. What? Like, first of all, no duh, no shit, Sherlock. But to say something so obvious, it makes me think that either A, you think we're all fucking stupid as shit, or what the hell were you using before? If you weren't using information or data to inform your lesson plans and your instructions, what were you using before? So Joyce said it because they weren't using data beforehand. Okay, Joyce Bales, so you use data for your lesson plans now, huh? Now you're using data for your lesson plans. What in the fuck were you using before? Now, she gets lots of accolades. She's pulling great numbers in Pueblo, or was she? Let's take a look at some of these numbers, okay? Now, they were reported in the newspaper. Progress was happening in all these schools: Beulah Heights Elementary School, Bradford and Columbian Elementary Schools, Sunset Park, Irving and Fountain Elementary Schools, Carlisle and South Park Elementary Schools. Bessemer Elementary Schools was listed. I think it's called Bessemer Academy today, and it's a failing school today, taken over by the state. And they do keep changing the names. Is that, I guess, it's not the same failing school if it's the academy instead of the elementary school? So, as part of her annual address to the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., U.S. Secretary of Education Margaret Spellings on September 21st, 2005, pointed to Pueblo School District 60 as a model that other districts should emulate in closing the achievement gap for all students. Secretary Spellings noted we're on the right track. I see it in places like Pueblo, Colorado, where its poorest schools posted a 20-point gain in 4th grade reading scores since they started testing every year. In the 2003-04 results of the requirements for the No Child Left Behind Education Act, District 60 is second in AVP, adequate yearly progress, among the Colorado's largest school districts, second to Boulder by only 1 percentage point. Now, I do think it's important to measure growth, to measure gains, because when it comes to education, right, you got to start at where people are, and as long as they are educating, as long as they are growing and learning more and more stuff, then that's a success. So growth is good. 20-point gain in 4th grade reading is good. What was the scores before, right? 20-point gain when you're really low, right? 20 points can seem like a whole bunch. But my biggest criticism with these numbers is that it's the adequate yearly progress. So Pueblo City Schools did well with the adequate yearly progress measurement. So they were great in their mediocrity. In terms of adequately progressing, Pueblo City was tops. We were number 1 at adequate process. We were number 1 in terms of adequately progressing. We were tops. We were number 1. We were the best. We were the greatest at mediocrity. When it came to just bland averageness, there is nobody more average than Pueblo City Schools. This is adequate yearly progress. Did you succeed in your goals? Yes, we succeeded. What did you succeed in? Adequately progressing. We adequately progressed. Well, good job. I mean, you're moving up, but not substantial, not proficient, not distinguished. You're adequately. You're just, that's like the bare minimum. You're growing, but just adequately. So being number 1 at mediocrity, this is the great numbers that we're saying Joyce Bales pulled down. I will only give Joyce Bales actually 2 credit, okay? The Linda Mood Bell model, I kind of personally hate it because she loved it so much, but it's not, that bad. It's expensive. You have to pay for it, but I don't see why. It's a multi-sensory approach to reading, spelling, and language comprehension, math, and visual motor skills. So you see a word and you hear it, then you announce it by saying the word. It helps you to visualize it, and then that helps you to read. So it seems like simple concepts that we could just go ahead and take for ourselves. We don't have to keep paying this program. I mean, just make sure the kid says the word. What does that word say? 1 fish, 2 fish? Okay, what's the second word? Fish. Think about it. Now, when you say fish, think about a fish. Everybody envision a fish. Envision a fish? Okay, you just been taught with Linda Mood Bell model. So when Joyce Bales left, the Linda Mood Bell program left with her. The literacy program left with her. Nobody picked it up. Nobody took anything. She didn't groom a successor. She didn't really care about the long-term goals of Pueblo City, right? She got her paycheck. She got a bigger, fatter paycheck elsewhere, so she was like, fuck all you motherfuckers, I'm out of here. So the Linda Mood Bell program left with her, but her autocratic, monarchical, fascist system stayed. When John Covington came in, he was like, I'm the head tyrant. And then when Kathy West was in there, Maggie Lopez, and now Charlotte Macaluso, I got a sneaking suspicion that all of them are a bunch of autocratic, monarchical oppressors. They're the boss, so you expect them to have power, but power can be good or it can be bad. Those are the 2 choices. The one other rebuttal that I want to have, Linda Mood Bell model, literacy program is good. Get hooked on phonics, that's another way to go. There's also Sudbury Model Schools, Summerhill, there's Rudolf Steiner, there's so many educational theorists who got a Mitra, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. If you built an entire school just the Jean-Jacques Rousseau University, that's way better. That's an entire educational philosophy, not just a theory on reading, but it's a philosophy on life. Jean-Jacques Rousseau University. Okay, yeah, I hear you. You're saying Linda Mood Bell, but I'm saying Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I'm saying Mark Twain, Albert Einstein, Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, John Dewey. John Dewey believed in a democratic education. So a rebuttal for Joyce Bales, the one thing, right now you have Michael Stapleton who's running for city council, and thank God he has no decisions when it comes to the school. But you got a lot of people in the Trump administration who's anti-EPA. Now they're the head of the EPA. If they're against it, now they're becoming the head of it. So that would be nerve-wracking to hear Michael Stapleton running for school board because he's against universal education. He's against the school. He's 100% against the school. He's for private schools, homeschool, and any other school. He don't want to pay for your children's education. He don't believe in universal education. He's against high school, middle school, elementary, kindergarten, no public education whatsoever. You educate your own. We're all a bunch of tribalistic people out here. We're not a community. We just take care of your own family, your own little tribe, and don't worry about anybody else. That's Michael Stapleton. He's against universal education. He's a conservative, but he's a libertarian. So in terms of Joyce Bales' conservatism, in terms of how conservative Joyce Bales actually is, she's a Republican, so she'll go with the Republican line, but I don't know if she actually has any principles, like a libertarian style, sense of authority. I would actually guess that she doesn't believe in libertarianism whatsoever, since she's an autocrat. But so let me say the one thing that I like about Joyce Bales was, even though people may bash public education, it's the best thing that we've got going for us. Joyce Bales said that. Joyce Bales is in favor of public education. She's a superintendent. Makes sense. She was in favor of taxes, so she was a tax and spend Republican. She's all about taxes, all about universal education, so Joyce Bales would be better than Michael Stapleton. Michael Stapleton is against Head Start, preschool, kindergarten, elementary, middle, high school. For Michael Stapleton, the best way to educate Pueblo City's children is to pull them all out of school and then just leave them out in the streets. Or leave it up to the parents to teach their children to read. And if you happen to live with stupid-ass abusive parents, well, sorry about your luck, kid. Sorry. Joyce Bales then goes on and describes some of the privileges that she had. She pointed out that 63% of District 60's youngsters qualify for free or reduced lunch. 63%. That implies that 63% of our children who's in the schools, I hope that there's not, children who's not in the schools, but I'm sure there could be a couple. But I think that's a good number, 63%. That's a good, accurate number. It's a bad statistic, but it's accurate. 63% is on free or reduced lunch. 63%, over fucking 50% of our children are poor. 63% of our children are poor. So she talks about how many children don't have parents who read to them at night. Many children don't even own a book. Coming to school unable to frame their thoughts in complete sentences. She praised Rotary 43 for its dictionary program, which provides the books for every third grader in Pueblo's 2 school districts. And she even remembered one boy, who got a book, and he was just looking at the book, and he was so shocked, and he was rubbing his hand over it, and he said, "Is this really mine?" That's a nice little heartwarming story. She defends public education. So one good thing about Joyce Bales, in spite of her being a Republican, she's not so conservative that she wants to get rid of public education. In fact, she very much sees public education as being the conduit that could save us all. So in that argument, for that one argument, she's correct in. She's better than Michael Stapleton when it comes to her being a conservative. She isn't as callous and heartless as Michael Stapleton. So there's a bunch of problems. She didn't choose a successor. It made it a bumpy, rocky, she's getting paid $140,000, doing all those extra expenses, applying for all these other superintendent jobs. In terms of the scores, it was only, she was doing great with adequate progress. So she's doing great with adequate process. That's the tip, right? That's the climax. That's the high watermark of her tenure, was adequate process was through the roof. So she was, number one in mediocrity. But like I said, there was poor performance scores all across the board, including in high school. There was poor performance scores in high school, and the biggest statistic to take away is 50% of the students, of the kids in Pueblo City were not graduating. A 50% graduation rate is disgusting. It's despicable. It's basically letting people, letting the kids drop out, and then who's going to pick them up? They're going to educate themselves on the street, and to be honest with you, that might be a better education for them because they got to deal with street problems. Living in poor areas, you got to deal with street problems. There's lots of street problems that's foisted upon children of no fault of their own. And if nobody's paying attention to their Maslow's hierarchy of needs, make sure that they're safe and that they belong and that they have food, water, clothing, all the basic essentials, if we're not worried about Maslow's hierarchy of needs of our students, then we truly don't care about who they actually are as humans, as people, as individuals. I think there's a way to make schools fun, make alternative education. School has to be fun. School absolutely has to be interesting. If you don't make school interesting and fun, then they're going to drop out. Make it interesting and fun isn't just, so we have a nice little fun time. To make it fun and interesting is to pique the curiosity. If you force somebody to learn math when they don't want to learn math, they're going to hate math for the rest of their fucking life. But if you can somehow inspire kids to learn math, which Sugata Mitra was able to do it with his hole-in-the-wall experiment, it can be done. You can inspire lots of people to learn boring shit. But if you're able to do it, you got a lifelong math learner. You got a lifelong science learner. If you can pique their curiosity in the subject material that you're trying to teach, you got a lifelong learner. And the inverse is just as dramatic. If you're able to pique their curiosity, they will learn math for the rest of their life. But if you make math an oppressive hellhole thing that they just can't understand, they have all this pressure, hurry up and perform and get this shit done, and you just say, do it, I don't give a shit if you're interested or not, just do it because I told you to do it, they're going to hate math forever. Not only did you not teach them, you taught them to hate the subject you were trying to teach for the rest of their lives. So you fucking failed. And when 50% of Pueblo City's children are not graduating, 50%, that's not a success, that's a failure. Joyce fucking Bales, not only was she a failure because 50% of the children weren't graduating, Joyce Bales was a failure because she was a tyrant. She was a tyrant who didn't want opposition, no opposition parties. She was a tyrant who didn't want dissent. People just questioning her was too much for her to bear. That's the reason why Joyce Bales pushed 3 school board members out in 2 years, and then 5 months right after she did that, she got the fuck out of Dodge and went to Vista and did the same shit. Kicked out, or pushed recall efforts against 3 school board members because they didn't agree with her Linda Bell Mood program. Linda Bell Mood, that's a nice little program name there. So here's some names for you. So Joyce Bales, wow, Linda Bell Mood, wow, some program, some unique program. What about Waldorf? What about Reggio Emilia? What about Khan's Academy? What about Daniel Greenberg? What about Albert Einstein, Mark Twain, the internet, memes, Facebook? Sudbury, Summerhill, Maria Montessori's Follow the Child philosophy, Sugata Mitra's Hole-in-the-Wall experiment, Rudolf Eichstein, John Holt, Kozel, Gatto, John Dewey, Edward Harkness, and the Harkness Oval Table, Jean Piaget. Of all those, let me just talk to you about Reggio Emilia. So Reggio Emilia is named after the city that it comes from, which there's a city named Reggio Emilia, Italy. And the education of Reggio Emilia is a student-centered constructivist approach that utilizes self-directed experiential, so to experience learning in a relationship-driven environment. So the relationship is important. For them to be curious about it is important. It's student-centered. The program is based on the principles of respect, responsibility, and community through exploration and discovery, so they get to learn on their own. Right? Let curiosity be their guide through a self-guided curriculum. They guide themselves. They choose their own curriculum. At its core, it's an assumption that children form their own personality during early years of development, are endowed with 100 languages, which they can express their ideas. So that's a big thing there, 100 languages. So every person has 100 languages. And that means if you can't communicate, well, that means you're not utilizing 100 different languages that you have. We all have 100 languages. And so the aim of the Reggio Emilia approach is to teach how to use these symbolic languages, painting, sculpting, drama, in everyday life. It was developed after World War II by psychologist Loris Malaguzzi and parents in the villages around Reggio Emilia. And that's the reason why it's got that name. Not because the city came up with it, because the people around the city of Reggio Emilia loved it. The people did. This is popular education. This is one alternative. Popular education. And there's 20, 30, 40, 50 other ones. So they absolutely adored her. They loved her. So when you looked at, so happy Joyce Bales Day, right? So May 20th is Joyce Bales Day for the rest of our life, right? Oh my God, I forgot to mark my calendar. Hold on. So remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. There's no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgotten. Actually, Joyce Bales Day should be when she left Pueblo, June 1st, 2006, for the superintendent's job in Vista, California. We should celebrate June 1st, the day Trunch Bowl left, the day when Pueblo City being poor was to our children's benefit, the day Matilda defeated Trunch Bowl. We should say June 1st is Happy Antifa Day. Happy Antifa Day, we got rid of the fascists on June 1st.